So I just want to talk about this movement from a starting point of we have no idea what we're going to charge up to that is absolutely the maximum price we could possibly charge for the product or service we're delivering. And I just want to explore the steps in that process so we understand some of the weak areas for businesses. So the starting point for most businesses in terms of working out their profitability is what does it cost me to deliver that service? So they would make a reasonable estimate of the cost. I know I pay this for it, therefore that's my cost price. They then have a view of this is the price we're charging, so that's what I think we can get away with the customer, and they set a price, that's what we're going to charge for that product or service. And the difference between those two, therefore, is the profit X, that the business thinks is currently being made. Now, that's a very simple equation. When I talk to most businesses, yeah, we pay this for it, we sell it for that. The difference is our profit, gross profit, for the purposes of this example. Unfortunately, what we often find is the actual price that is being achieved isn't the price the organization thinks is being achieved, because occasionally we give away a freebie, occasionally we give a bit of discount, or commonly we give a bit of discount. We don't always charge for the delivery that we should do. So the price we're actually getting is never as high as the price we think we're getting, because it leaks out of these various parts of the transaction. Equally, the cost we're trying to equate to is always higher than we think it is, because there are inward delivery costs, there is stock losses, pilferage, damage, obsolescence. There's all sorts of things which mean actually the real cost overall is slightly higher than we think it is. In one example business, we actually crunched those numbers and we realized that it was about 8% higher than the raw cost of the item bought in. That was the cost of all the peripheral bits of insurance and warehouse space and all the other things that had to be taken into account in working out what it really cost us to deliver that transaction. So the difference between those prices is the real profit, what I'm actually charging the customer, and what the true cost of the product is. The real profit is what we're actually generating, and that in many cases is significantly different to the profit the business thinks is being. And then the final point on this upward graph or upward diagram, as we head towards the absolute maximum price, is the real value of the product or service in the eyes of the consumer. If I could read the customer's mind, here, you want one of these, how much do you think it's worth? And I could read their mind, that's the number we're trying to get. If we go too far, then they won't buy it. If we go too low, we're leaving money on the table. And the difference between the value the customer would pay if I could read their minds as to how much they believe our product or service is worth, and the price we currently charge, the difference between those two is what we refer to as the confidence gap. It's just your confidence to charge a higher price to reflect the value the customer is actually receiving. That's the gap. Now, in some businesses, it's a big gap, but that's an important gap. So I'd like you, when you reflect on the seminar, to look at that diagram and really start to understand, do you know what it really costs to deliver your products and services? Do you know what you're actually getting in real price from your customers when you take into account all the leakage and the discounts and the freebies that you give away to work out your actual profit? And then finally, how can we find out where that real value V is in the eyes of the customer to try and narrow that confidence gap? That's the principle of that diagram we're trying to establish. What we find, though, unfortunately, is in many low value transactions, the true cost is even higher than the actual price being achieved. So actually those two diagrams, or two boxes at the bottom, switch over. They are loss-making transactions, because the actual price of a very small value transaction versus the real cost of someone having to pick, pack, ship and do all the other stuff we talked about, the actual cost is higher than the price we're actually achieving. We're losing money on those transactions. So real profit turns into real loss. And that is a real issue in lots of businesses I talk to, where the very large numbers of very low value transactions are sucking profit out of the equation. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you've taken time out of your day to listen today. I hope you found it useful. There are my contact details on screen. If you buy my book, pick up the phone. I always have time to talk to people about pricing. So thank you for your time today.